The idea was born on a gentle, rainy afternoon on the porch of the Cullen house as Alice stared at the sky as if she could pull a different vision from the horizon. "What if we tried?" she suddenly said, with that mischievous glint that always made her seem more alive than the others. 1 year, just one, living like humans. The silence that followed was deeper than the sound of the forest. Edward stopped playing the piano. Esme turned from the kitchen. Jasper frowned, and Rosalie crossed her arms immediately. "What for?" the blonde scoffed. "To feel cold, hunger, and anxiety? Thanks, but no thanks." Alice didn't insist. She just smiled. She already knew Rosalie would say that, but her gaze turned to Bella, who sat next to Edward, her hand entwined with his. "To remember," Alice murmured, "to know what we're defending, what we were, what we could have been." Carlyle was the first to nod, his expression serious and thoughtful. He had been experimenting with a serum, a mix of compounds that could temporarily suppress their vampire nature. It wouldn't make them human, not entirely, but it would remove their supernatural senses, speed, strength, vision, even the thirst for blood, as close to mortality as they could come. "We could feel real hunger," Emmett said with a laugh. "And pizza! God, pizza!" "And colds," Rosalie replied sarcastically. Edward looked at Bella. They had had that conversation so many times. What it would be like to live a normal life, to walk together in the sunlight without hiding, to stumble, to get sick, to sleep wrapped in each other without his eternal cold between them. "Would you?" he asked her, without needing to read her mind. "With you, yes," she replied, without hesitation. And so the pact was sealed. The Cullens left their mansion in Forks and moved to a small coastal town in Oregon. A gray place where time seemed to stand still. They rented an old wooden house with creaky furniture, drafty windows, and a neglected garden that soon became Esme's hobby. In the first days, everything was disorienting. Alice could no longer see the future. Jasper got dizzy with his own mood swings. Emmett broke a faucet trying to fix it, lacking his usual strength. Carlyle, without supernatural reflexes, started bumping into half-open doors. Rosalie slept for the first time in decades and hated every minute of it. Bella, however, blossomed. For the first time, she wasn't the fragile one among gods. Everyone was on the same level. They cooked together, walked in the rain, laughed when they got sick from street food. Edward looked at her like he was getting to know her all over again. And Bella, more than ever, saw him as human. Playful, clumsy, passionate. For the first time, they cried together, fought without fear. Made love like two young people unsure if tomorrow was promised. Months passed. They learned to work. Alice became a window display designer. Emmett a gym instructor. Rosalie and Esme opened a flower shop. Jasper taught history at a local school. Edward and Bella worked at a used bookstore. They had friends, celebrated birthdays, got sick, recovered, hugged tighter. But not everything was perfect. There was something else in that coastal town, something they hadn't expected. 2 children disappeared in the first month. Then, a dog was found mutilated. At first, they thought it was coincidence, but the pattern repeated. Cold zones, signs of violence, and a figure no one described the same way. The Cullens, without their gifts, couldn't protect anyone, not even themselves. One night, Bella was walking home after closing the bookstore. The street was empty, the fog thick like a dream, and she felt it. A breath behind her, a crackling sound. "Edward?" she whispered. But there was no reply, only a growl. Low, wet, as if from a throat that had forgotten how to be human. And then Bella ran. Not with vampire speed, not with supernatural strength, but with pure human fear. And she understood they had played with more than destiny. They had let their guard down. And what lurked in the shadows knew it. Bella didn't remember ever running so much in her life. Her body, used to the calm shared with the Cullens, trembled from the effort. Her chest burned. Her legs gave out. There was no one else on the streets, and the fog swallowed everything, even her own screams. She slipped, turning a corner, and fell against the wet asphalt, scraping her palms. She heard footsteps behind her, slow, deliberate. Something was hunting her, not like a hungry predator, but like a creature enjoying the game. Then a figure emerged from the mist, Jasper. No vampire strength, no vision, no reflexes, but courage, intact. "Run, Bella," he shouted as he stepped between her and the creature. And she saw it for the first time. It wasn't a vampire, nor a werewolf. It was something older. something torn, pale as death, hollow eyes, mouth sewn shut with threads of shadow. The creature didn't move like something alive, but like a puppet with broken strings. Jasper tried to fight, but without his emotional power, without strength or agility, he was thrown against the wall like a rag doll. Bella screamed, ran to him, but the monster was already approaching. Then Edward arrived, not as a vampire storming in at full speed, not with devastating force, just as a 20-year-old man with fear in his eyes and love in his chest. He stepped forward, protected Bella with his body. His trembling was real, and something happened. The creature stopped. It looked at him. Edward didn't know why, but Bella did. She understood. That thing, it recognized something in them, as if their humanity echoed what it once was. It wasn't after flesh, it was after memory, ancient sorrow, a void it couldn't fill. "We're not running," Bella said, stepping forward. The creature growled. "You're not forgetfulness," it whispered. "You are what remains." The monster trembled. A moment was enough. Then from the trees came Alice and Emmett, not with force, but with courage, with an improvised trap. Rosalie and Esme arrived seconds later, leading a group of neighbors they had warned, a united community. No powers, just humanity. The monster, cornered by compassion and the courage of those who weren't gods, stepped back, growled one last time, not in rage, but in resignation, and vanished, as if it had never been there. The danger passed, silence returned. That night, in the old wooden house, the Cullens looked at each other, wounded, exhausted, human. Carlyle broke the silence. "I think it's time to decide." Edward took Bella's hand. "Going back to what we were? Does it have to be the end?" No one answered at first. Rosalie, surprisingly, was the first to nod. "Yes, but not like before. We'll carry this with us. I don't want to forget what it's like to shake from fever, or cry over a silly movie, or be afraid and still go on." The decision was unanimous. Carlyle prepared the antidote. One by one, they regained their abilities, their essence, but something in them had changed, and Bella, still human, still mortal, chose not to take the serum. Not yet. "What if we give ourselves one more year?" she asked Edward, smiling as she handed him a cup of hot tea. Edward looked at her for a long time. He could hear thoughts again, feel the world like a symphony, but he chose to focus only on her. "Only if it's with you," he whispered. And together, in a small house filled with memories, the Cullens learned to be more than vampires. They learned to be human, even when they no longer were.